How are the fireworks going? Make sure you fill yourself up on some ice-cold Budweiser. That's what I'm going to do later today. Plenty of hot dogs and some burgers and some potato salad and some whatever Jell-O weird thing that your aunt made. I'm going to tell you right now, your cousin, okay, look around at your cousin doesn't look good right now. Your cousin's been overserved, and we haven't even made it to the fireworks yet, okay? Take care of him. No daily puck drop today and Friday. We'll return on Monday, and he's back. The go-to guy, Jim Moore, will return on Monday for the DPD. His prison sentence is over from iHeartMedia, and even though I'm technically off today, still had time to check in with Rob Staton of SeahawksDraftBlog.com, which is brought to you by Superior Linen Service, to talk a little Seahawks football. Enjoy your 4th, and we're going to talk to you on Monday. This is a holiday for us. Do you guys get a sense, when this week happens and it's 4th of July, do you guys, Rob, sit back and go, we lost that one?
We pay as much attention to the 4th of July as you guys do finding a way to correctly pronounce the word aluminium.
How do you say it's aluminum?
It is in America.
Say it. How do you pronounce it?
Aluminium. I will say this. I can't say anything.
I can't even say that.
I can't talk about this because I work for the BBC, but we have a general election. So, your guys' election is coming up sometime soon. Sure. But ours is on the 4th of July this year. So so there won't be much talk of what's happening in America during the next 24 hours.
There's a lot of this week, especially on the 4th of July. Which is today, that I think a lot of Americans pour a little out for you guys. And think about, we won. It was our first big major battle we won. And, I think we're better for it. I think you guys are better for it too. You didn't want us there. It's fine. I think we each needed to go our separate ways.
On a serious note, it's not something that we ever discuss. And I don't think that's because of any lingering bitterness, by the way. It's something that, I'm thinking back because I studied history right up until the point I went to university, and you learn about all sorts of boring stuff and some interesting stuff as well, from the Russian Revolution and all of that. And we never do American history. There's never, well, at least there wasn't when I was at school. They've never done anything about that. So you don't actually grow up actually knowing all that much about Independence Day and the background to it.
They don't want you guys to remember the failures.
No, perhaps that must be it. That must be it. And haven't you all? You've gone from strength to strength ever since. So
our continued dominance. We just keep going, getting fatter and fatter and fatter and drunker on our own ego. Rob Staton is here, SeahawksDraftBlog.com. We're not talking about history. We're going to try and make up some storylines on the Seahawks because we are in the dog days right now with training camp just around the corner. Rob's weekly appearance brought to you by Superior Linen Service, family owned and operated since 1926. They provide the highest quality of products and service to the greater Puget Sound area. Get a free quote today at suplinen.com. Give him a call at 253-383-2636. Check out Rob's work there at on YouTube and also on SeahawksDraftBlog.com. Just search Rob Staton. We're broadcasting, Rob, inside the Limback Lumber Studios, our brand new sponsor here, the Limback Lumber Studios. So we appreciate Limback Lumber. Summer season is here, so your deck and fence season, you need some lumber for that. It's American lumber, by the way, Rob. LimbackLumber.com. The fine folks there. Give them a call at 206-782-3487. Puck Sports Studios built by Limback Lumber. Yeah, this is the time of year. Not a lot of going on in the NFL, but it's a small period of time, Rob, because then it ramps up and it's training camp and it's like we freak out about all the storylines. So it's coming.
Yeah, it's definitely coming. It's around the corner. And, the one good thing about this time of year, if you happen to write a draft blog, is it does give you a bit of time to do some study before the college football season begins. And in between the massive frustration that has been England's Euro 2024 campaign. I've squeezed in a bit of quarterback work over the last few days, so that's been good for two reasons: one, to get the work in, Puck, but also to take my mind off the way England have been playing. In fact, somebody actually sent me a tweet. It might have been Curtis who writes me, and he said, "What's worse, the sort of the final throws of the Pete Carroll era in Seattle, or the way England are playing right now?" And I said, "Oh no, it's definitely England. It's definitely England."
Where are we at, as we record this? Where are we at with them? Are we out?
No. They squeezed past the might of Slovakia with a goal in the last second of the last game. Which, if I had to describe how dramatic it was and how improbable it was an overhead kick in the last minute. That is like intercepting the football on the 1 yard line with about 10 seconds to go in the Super Bowl. That is how improbable that was. And even then, sort of describing the goal in that way, it's taking the shine off it.
What are you doing? Huh? What are you doing? You're trying to piss people off on 4th of July here. We're celebrating our independence, ridding ourselves of a king and a tyrant, and celebrating with ice cold American Budweisers and filling up on hot dogs and watching grown men eat as many hot dogs as they possibly can and having mom's terrible potato salad. It's every 4th of July.
The hot dog thing. I keep seeing tweets about it.
4th of July, Nathan's hot dog eating contest. You guys have any competitive eating over there?
No.
Is a thing in England?
No, we have a guy there's a guy from, I think, near me who is, I think people may well know him because he has like a bajillion YouTube followers. He's called like Beard versus Food. And I think he goes around and he just eats. He's been to America a few times. And I don't know how he does it because he's not a big guy. He's probably the only thing we have. But I am intrigued because I see all the serious sports journalists tweeting away about this hot dog thing, and you guys clearly take a lot of
it's fascinating.
A lot of interest in this.
Well, we just we're gluttonous people over here, and we love it. I mean, to watch grown men who just dip hot dogs in water, because
that's so it goes down a bit easier.
Yeah, because they're easier, right? Because then it shrinks it, so they dip it, and then that's
feels a bit cheating, that to me.
Yeah, I think it's cheating too. I agree with you. I think they should outlaw the dipping into the water. Eat the hot dog. Okay, eat it.
Who wants a soggy, wet, watery hot dog anyway? Even if you're trying to cram 50 of them into your mouth in a short space of time, that does not appeal to me at all.
It's terrible. It's just one of the dumbest things in the world. There's many dumb things we do. I'm going to tell you right now that kind of ranks right up there. One of the top things that we do. Stupid. All right?
What is the? Sorry to ruin your independence, but what is the dumbest thing that you guys do?
Americans?
Yeah.
That's a great question. What is it? What is it besides?
I definitely know what I know. What we do that's I think it's the dumbest thing in the world.
God, I don't know. It just we I don't know. One thing in particular, just overindulge. We amass so much just stupid shit, right? We have to buy everything when just for no reason. It just we spend money on stuff for no reason. I don't know. That's not a great answer. What you sounds like you have a better answer. What is yours?
Well, British
arrogance.
people.
Hold on, let me stop you. Arrogance. Our arrogance. We're very arrogant. That's the dumbest thing we do.
That is probably what I think a lot of people associate with Americans over here. But I personally have not found that to be as much of a problem as perhaps younger me would have thought, having been to America many times. Yeah. But the thing that we do the worst is we will, if somebody pisses you off, or if a situation pisses you off, like someone at work stole my desk the other day, but rather than go up to that person and go, "Excuse me, I'm sorry, you just sat on my desk. I couldn't get it back, could I?" What you do is you don't say anything. You go and sit somewhere else. You sit there angry as hell all day and complain to everybody else about it, except the one person that if you just went and said to them, "You wouldn't mind me just sitting there, would you? It's my desk." And that is a very British thing. It's almost like we try too hard to be polite, and therefore spend the rest of the day in a stinking mood. So that is a very British thing.
Okay, a little passive aggressive. Okay, I guess. Okay, all right. I wouldn't have figured that. My stereotype of you people would be bad drunks.
Oh yeah, but also great drinkers. We have got some. You might be good at the old basketball and the athletics, but when it comes to getting pissed, the British.
Yeah, you are right
there.
about. You can sit at a bar. You can sit at a bar stool and put in a long session at the pub.
When I was in Germany the other day, the guy sat next to me was drinking pints of beer 2 at a time. I don't know how many he'd had by the time the game started, but he was unbelievably sober for a man who had drunk as much as he had. And look, that's basically the entire crowd is just full of blokes who are absolutely steaming, but you wouldn't notice otherwise. I mean, I've been around men who are very, quite sort of normal people, but then they get drinking and they can have 10 pints, 15 pints, and you wouldn't even notice that they were drunk. So yes, sensational drinkers.
That's what's good. You got to be good. You got to be good at something. I was talking to on this week's show. I asked Mike Garofalo the same question I'm going to ask you, just about the future of DK and whether or not, when will they start talking extension, if they will talk extension with him. And we're probably too early yet, but you're looking at the market of these wide receivers and they're making a ton of money, or at least there's been contracts handed out. He will be an unrestricted free agent 2 years, so not until 2026 that he'll be a free agent. I would assume a lot is going to be based on what happens this year. Like, how does he perform? How does he act in this year's contract? Do you kind of track with that line of thinking with him?
I do, to an extent. I also wonder a little bit whether they might try and, this is what I would do personally. I think the Seahawks have enough information about DK Metcalf now to determine whether they see him as the future. And I'm not sure they need to wait a year for him to perform in this offense. I think they will have an idea as to how successful or not he will be in this offense. And they shouldn't really be making decisions based on if there are any growing pains or if the quarterback doesn't play well in the system or whatever, or how defenses play them. And because the market is what it is at receiver, I think they've got to know what they're going to do kind of now. So his cap hit this year is $24.5 million. It balloons. It's $29.5 million in a year, and then he's going to be a free agent. I would suspect, if I had to guess, that they see DK Metcalf as a long-term fixture within this franchise, and that what might happen is a contract extension between now and before the end of the year, to get ahead of the curve, to appreciate where the market is, and to maybe understand that the market is not going to go down from here, because there are still big name receivers who are going to get paid in the future. So I think they might try and get ahead of it. And I think if they make a fair offer to DK Metcalf, he seems to have been quite amenable and willing to work with the Seahawks. And the other great thing is, if you do a deal with him this year, there is a chance to maybe lower that cap hit for next year from $29.5 million down a little bit and sort of tack some years on. And then that would give them some much needed cap relief for next year, because they don't have much cap space. So my prediction would be that they feel like very comfortable with DK, that they're going to keep DK, and that they're going to try and work on this in the near future, rather than waiting to the final year of his contract, when things like potentially losing him for nothing, having to franchise tag him, would become a huge issue for them.
Yahoo Sports, I don't know if you're familiar with Frank Schwab, works for Yahoo Sports, was kind of looking at a bunch of teams here in the offseason, and they put the Seahawks under the microscope this week on this week's preview. Anyways, they're doing like the Bet GM odds breakdown of what the total of over under is going to be wins, 7.5. And I think we've discussed this before, but the win total is at 7.5. Fair? Right now, you're leaning here early July on the over or on the under on that?
I think they're going to get more than 7.5 wins. I mean, what we have to remember here is I don't really understand where the mindset is from the bookies and the betting agencies that have kept on with this throughout the year, because the Seahawks have been terrible on defense for the last 2 years and won 9 games. in both seasons.
Yeah.
So if the defense, I don't know how the defense can't improve, frankly, under Mike Macdonald. And if the offense just stays even at the base level that it's been at, and given that they do have an experienced quarterback, they do have some weapons, they have invested in the left tackle position. Given those things, I think even if the defense improves by 10 places, it's hard to imagine that the record's going to be worse than it has been the last 2 years. So I think at the absolute bare minimum, let's say there's some growing pains in Mike Macdonald and Ryan Grubb, and that maybe they drop a couple of games that they otherwise won't do in the future when they have a bit more experience as coaches leading a team / defense and an offense. I still think that 9 wins feels like Seattle's range at a minimum. And look, I'm not suggesting that their peak is 14 wins. I think they probably are 9, 10, 11 wins feels realistic for this team. And if they were at 7.5, I think that'd be really disappointing, because I did an exercise a few weeks ago where with some other guys, we did a mock draft puck with all of the teams in the sort of fantasy draft rather than a mock draft with all of the teams in the NFC West. And actually, when you do that process and you compare Seattle's rosters to the others, you get a good idea of what other teams look like. And I think there is a danger sometimes of overrating other teams because you haven't really studied them. But when I did a draft board and had every player in the NFC West on a draft board and sort of put the Seahawks, like the Niners have got the star talent. The Niners have got players right at the top of the board where, you pick them in first and they are front loaded, although they do have some aging stars. But then when you look at the other teams, now that Aaron Donald's no longer in the conference and he's retired, there isn't actually a lot of players on the Rams that you would envy. There aren't on the Cardinals. The Seahawks have a lot of good young players, and they just need some of those good young players to develop into great players. And I think with the coaching changes they've got now, there's every chance that could happen. So I don't buy this 7.5 wins thing. I think they are going to be better than that. How much better? I don't know. It could be another 9-win season in Mike Macdonald's first year, but I don't see them regressing by a couple of defeats and ending up with a 7-win season. I just don't see that.
When you do know, because I like to bet, will you tell me when you do know how many wins they're going to get? Because I'd like to put a lot of money on that one, okay?
Yeah.
I'd like to get a futures bet in now so we can cash out later. Then we can retire and, go to a beach someplace, okay?
I'll work on that time machine and find out.
All right, so on defense, let's just take Mike Macdonald. That's his forte, obviously coming over from the Ravens, who had, when he took over, had a great turnaround and a great, first year under him. It's a very complex defense. We've heard a lot before. They show you one look, boom, the ball snap. They show you a totally different look. It will take time to pick up. Not having your linebackers there probably hurts you. It's not like they're not doing anything, right? I mean, I know those 2 linebackers are at least studying film and studying the plays and all that, but they're not getting any game reps. So it'll be interesting to see how those 2, when they come back, hopefully in training camp, will be able to adapt to the system. Who do you think right now, as we make an early prediction here in July, the most to gain defensively to have a, I quote, bounce back, breakout, let's call it a breakout year under Mike Macdonald?
Well, I think a breakout year is probably Boya Mafe, because they've, you just have to look at what the Ravens did last year, and they had 3 pass rushers. Kyle Van Noy, who was basically semi-retired, had a really good year. Jadeveon Clowney was heading the same way and had a career renaissance. And then, again, apologies to this individual. I keep forgetting the name he goes by now. When he was drafted, he was Jason Owe. He's changed his first name since then. But they had Jason Owe. And he was a first-round pick, and he had a very good year. My PFF was one of the highest-graded edge rushers. So, although there's a lot of focus on Kyle Hamilton, understandably so, and Roquan Smith in Baltimore, the edge rushers had a lot of success, a lot of production, a lot of good grades. So I expect that, Uchenna Nwosu is going to have a Uchenna Nwosu season. Mm-hmm. I think it's whether Boya Mafe, fresh off a year where he had 7 sacks in 7 consecutive games, can take another step. And if it's not him, if that's just who he is, someone who's never going to be a dominating player, but someone who can sort of stack some sacks together in consecutive games, then maybe the better answer is Derek Hall, someone who was totally awful as a rookie and looked like a fish out of water. Maybe he can actually be a contributing factor this year. And then if I know I'm kind of just running through the list, if not him, maybe Darryl Taylor, because Darryl Taylor is somebody with a ton of potential, has done absolutely nothing. They've put a lot of trust by keeping him in the first place on a renewed deal for this year. I know there's an easy out for them if they want to get out of that contract, but Darryl Taylor is another player with all the talent in the world, but he hasn't been able to defend the run. So let's see if he can take a step.
That was the first guy. I mean, I thought of Mafe. I think like a lot of people, Mafe jumps to mind, and he's, terrific. Has the potential to be a terrific player. I did think of Taylor because when you look at Taylor and his three disappointing seasons. I mean, 21 and a half sacks in those 3 seasons. Remember his second year in 2022, he had 9.5. Like sometimes you forget about 9.5 sacks, 9.5 sacks. So. But there are those intangibles, 6'4", 6'5", almost 265, 270. I mean, he has the ability to be a game changer if you put in the right situation. So I think you nailed it with both those guys. And I'm intrigued to see Mafe for sure, but I'm also intrigued to see what Taylor can provide this team. And if Mike Macdonald can get something out of him that the previous staff just simply couldn't.
Darryl Taylor looks, in terms of his frame,
like the part, yeah.
Like an elite NFL pass rusher, has everything. And the way that he could bend and straighten at Tennessee was unbelievable. Like that's, legit first round ability. But because of the injuries and the inconsistency at Tennessee, that's why he lasted around 2. The Seahawks traded up for him. Let's not forget that. They really liked him. They traded up for him. There was a bit of buzz that they were going to take him at the end of the first round that year. So I do think that he is somebody who has needed someone to come in and unlock him. And I think that the fact that they redid his deal to make sure that he stayed, I think suggests that John Schneider still thinks there is a player there and I want my new head coach to get his hands on this guy. So he is massively intriguing. Now, he also does seem, I'm afraid to say, a bit of a bonehead sometimes, maybe, look at the reason I say that is, can you remember that play where I think it was Quandre Diggs or somebody had intercepted the ball and they were returning the ball and he wasn't on the field at the time, but then just ran on to celebrate and then joined in with the blocking for the interception. Because
I totally forgot about that.
Who does that?
That's awesome.
So, I mean, look, it was, kudos to him for getting away with it, I guess. But you kind of think, no, come on, this is serious time now. You have got the potential, whether it's with Seattle for the long term or not, if you have a great year this year, you can really set yourself up here financially. So let's see. I'm very, very intrigued to see what happens to him.
Yeah. Yeah, me too. I think it's gonna be fun. And also, I mean, listen, not a breakout year, but I think the possibilities he could do with someone with like Devin Witherspoon, I think is intriguing because it's not just, I mean, he's kind of a defensive weapon that I think can be multiple and I'm really, really excited and intrigued to see kind of what Mike Macdonald's going to come up in that crazy mind of his to try to use him in all these different roles. And then I think another guy, because he had such a great rookie season, but then there was that just a drop off. It was drop off of the play on the field. He had just some off the season just antics, and that would be Reek Woolen. So because there's so much talent there with him. I mean, so much talent. But his second year in the league was disappointing.
Yeah, I mean, it would be great to see him have a bounce back year.
Oh.
It's again with him. It just seemed to go to his head. He had one great year, and all of a sudden, I think he thought he was Richard Sherman. So it'd be nice to sort of maybe be humbled a little bit this year and tested, and it would be great to see him come back because for years the Seahawks were very good at finding contributors in the later rounds at cornerback, and then it kind of stalled for a few years, and it felt like they'd returned to form with that. And then last year he was, best remembered for grabbing his crotch in the Arizona game.
Grabbing his crotch, and wasn't he a part of Cigar Gate?
Oh, he was. I've got to tell you this, by the way. So the main player in the England team is under investigation at the Euros because after he scored the overhead kick that I was referencing earlier, he did the Earl Thomas "I have massive balls" celebration, and it was deemed to be inappropriate.
What? Well, come on, he's celebrating. They really do that? So what happened if they deem it inappropriate? Does he get suspended?
Well, the feeling is he might get away with it because apparently the worry was that he was doing it at the opposing team's bench. But it was shown that he had done it in previous games as well, and that it's a joke with friends. So he may escape it. But I had someone was saying, why is he in trouble for that? And I said, I know, because, and then it gave me a chance to sort of educate people on who Earl Thomas was, who don't watch the NFL this week, because I was saying Earl Thomas did the same thing after the Bills game on Monday Night Football, and how much I enjoyed that celebration. So I enjoyed this one as well. So I wish for him not to be receiving any punishment for it.
Who do they have next? I think you mentioned it before. Who do they play next?
They're playing on Saturday against Switzerland.
Oh, Switzerland.
The Swiss.
Bombs.
Yes. With their cheese.
Apps. Is that what they're known for? Cheese and their watches.
Toblerone, do you know what that is?
Yeah, I know what Toblerone is. I love Toblerone. Yeah. It's great.
It's a fantastic treat, but hopefully they will be able to. They will be needing some Toblerone to get over the defeat on Saturday, but I'm not. No one is confident over here because they're not playing well enough, England. So,
okay. We're gonna continue to wrap up and celebrate our Independence Day, and I'll just speak on behalf, I think, of all of Americans over here. Thank you. Thank you for letting us defeat you. So many 100 years ago, more than 100 years ago, a couple 100 years ago, and just look where we've gone. We've just thrived. We've thrived. You've continued to have a monarchy that you continue to, you throw aside the people that are supposed to be in that monarchy. We gave you Meghan Markle. All right.
Yeah. Thanks for that.
Yeah.
Yeah. We gave her back. But in fairness, you owed us one after we gave you James Bloody Corden. So there you go.
Is he not popular there?
No.
Yeah. Okay.
No, he's not.
Yeah.
No.
All right. I get it. What happened to him? I mean, so you guys kicked him out. Then I think we kicked him out.
It's just a bit much. And, and he went over. It was perfect for you guys, I have to say. And then, we were
supposed to mean.
We were really surprised that he was like, people were like, is that the same James Corden who's like doing all that stuff over there? And that we were like, yeah, it's the same James Corden.
Who do the Brits, hold on, who do the Brits considered their funniest entertainer?
Oh, that's a great question.
You're known for your humor, Monty Python. I mean, is that?
Well, we had some amazing comedians back in the day, but God, comedy's just been destroyed over the last. There's nothing funny anymore.
Well, you can't. You can't. It's funny. You just can't make fun of anything.
Look, it's not everybody's taste. I enjoy some of Ricky Gervais's stuff.
I love Ricky Gervais. I love.
But some of the, I think over here, the comedies that I've enjoyed watching the most are stuff like Chappelle and stuff like that. So it's been mainly American stuff that's come over. That's been the sort of the stand-up stuff that I've enjoyed the most. Good. But, we've had some classic sitcoms over the years that are, maybe an acquired taste. And look, you guys stole The Office and made that your own American thing. But the original one with Ricky Gervais, funnily enough, was...
I still got to go watch that. I got to watch it. Because I've heard, as much as I like The Office, our version of it, I've always been told that the original is just...
It's very British. I will warn you that. I watched that
I'm
back now.
not going to get the jokes, right?
I don't know. There's certain things that are so British that you have to... Okay. I think you have to be over here to... But it's so realistic. It is. If you watch it, you may not find some of it funny because you might not get some of the jokes, but you will get a perspective of what life is like over here.
Is it? You've seen the American version, right?
I refuse to watch it.
Is it filmed in the same way like it's a documentary?
It's filmed like a documentary, but it's tragically realistic for British life.
Okay,
all of the characters are so real, and the scenarios are real. It's a wonderful program.
I enjoy him. I enjoy him so much. I love when he had that run where I think he was hosting the Globes. And he would get up there and he would just drink and he just would sit there and blast every Hollywood person in that room. And I'm like, it's so funny.
And they'd sit
I like
there,
people that make others feel uncomfortable.
Yeah. And they didn't know where to look, any of them, did they?
No, they're just like, I can't believe this guy is saying that. So You're the best. Thanks for doing it here on the 4th of July. Check out Rob's work there on Twitter. Just search Rob Staton, also on YouTube. Check out his page at SeahawksDraftBlog.com. It's all brought to you by Superior Linen Service, family owned and operated since 1926. They provide the highest quality of products and services to the greater Puget Sound area. Get a free quote today at suplinen.com. Give them a call at 253-383-2636. Rob Staton from the Puck Sports Studios, built by Limbeck Lumber. All right, Rob, we'll talk to you next week. Thanks, sir.
Happy Independence Day, everybody, and hopefully you will not need Will Smith to save you from aliens.